February 1 arrives without noise, without announcement, without the dramatic signs many people expect when something important begins. Yet today marks the opening of a new phase, one that does not demand attention but requires awareness. This is how divine transitions often unfold, not with thunder, but with stillness. What begins today is subtle, deliberate, and intentional. If you feel an unexplainable pause in the air, a quiet sense that something has shifted even though nothing outward looks different, that is not coincidence. It is alignment. February 1 is not here to shock you. It is here to position you. And the reason this message urges you to open it immediately is because delay dulls discernment. What God releases quietly can be missed easily by those who are waiting for loud signs. This new phase does not begin with answers. It begins with clarity of direction. Many have been praying for confirmation, for certainty, for something obvious that says, now is the time. But heaven often speaks in whispers when it is testing readiness rather than excitement. Today is not about sudden breakthroughs on the surface. It is about internal authorization. Something within you is being permitted to move forward, even if the world around you has not yet caught up. February 1 functions like a hinge between what has already ended and what has not yet fully appeared. You are standing in a narrow space where the old no longer fits, but the new has not made noise yet. Archangel Michael steps forward at moments exactly like this. Not when chaos is obvious, but when courage must be chosen quietly. His presence is not dramatic for attention. It is strategic for protection and direction. When transitions are silent, fear often tries to fill the gap with doubt. That is why guidance is necessary now. This is not a season where you are meant to rush blindly, nor is it a time to remain frozen. It is a season to step forward with calm confidence, even if you cannot yet explain why you are moving. Michael's guidance is not about pushing you aggressively. It is about steadying your footing so you do not retreat out of uncertainty. There is a reason this phase begins today and not later. Prolonged waiting would turn discernment into hesitation. Too much analysis would weaken trust. Heaven has timed this shift precisely so that obedience remains simple. You are not being asked to understand everything, only to recognize that something has changed. The pressure you felt in recent weeks was not punishment, it was compression. What felt heavy was preparing you to move without looking back. February 1 releases that pressure not by removing responsibility, but by clarifying direction. This message matters because many people will overlook this moment entirely. They will wait for a sign that matches their expectations and miss the one that aligns with their calling. New phases that begin quietly are often the most significant because they bypass ego and go straight to obedience. There is no applause here, no immediate validation. Just a clear inner knowing that the path ahead requires you to trust the guidance you are receiving now, not later. This is where confidence is formed, not after success, but before movement. Archangel Michael's guidance today is not symbolic. It is functional. It comes to those who are standing at the edge of something unfamiliar but necessary. If you have been sensing that your old way of thinking, reacting, or planning no longer fits, that is because this phase requires a different posture. Strength without aggression. Awareness without fear. Action without noise. Michael's role here is to guard your steps as you move forward without needing to explain yourself to anyone who cannot see what you see. February 1 does not erase the past. It releases you from being defined by it. What you survived prepared you for this moment, but it does not get to decide how you step forward. This new phase is quieter because it is cleaner. There is less striving, less proving, less attachment to outcomes. The guidance offered now is meant to help you move with confidence that is rooted, not reactive. Confidence that does not need permission from circumstances. confidence that comes from alignment rather than control. If you feel a sense of urgency without anxiety, that is intentional. Urgency here is not panic, it is timing. Heaven is opening a window that responds to movement, not perfection. You are not late. You are not early. You are exactly where you need to be for this shift to take hold. But this message had to reach you now because hesitation would blur what is currently clear. The quiet beginning of this phase is your invitation to listen more closely than usual. Today is not asking you to announce anything, explain anything, or prove anything. It is asking you to acknowledge what you already feel, that something has changed, and you cannot go back to the way things were. February 1 is the moment where inner permission meets divine guidance. And as Archangel Michael stands present in this transition, the path ahead may not be loud, but it is protected. Step forward with confidence, not because everything is visible, but because what is guiding you is precise, intentional, and already ahead of you. You did not arrive here by accident, and this is not a random moment in your day. There is a reason your attention paused long enough for this message to find you. When a new phase begins quietly, it often calls only those who are already listening beneath the surface of life. Something within you recognized the timing before your mind could explain it. That inner pull, the sense that you needed to hear this now, is evidence of alignment. You were drawn here because your spirit is already responding to the shift that began today. Many people scroll past moments like this without a second thought. They dismiss the nudge, silence the intuition, and move on. What you didn't. It tells us something important. It tells us that you are sensitive to transitions, even when they are subtle. It tells us that you are standing at a point where guidance matters more than noise. This message found you because you are not meant to enter this new phase unaware. Awareness is your advantage right now. Often, before a new chapter opens, there is a period of restlessness. Not chaos, not drama, but a quiet dissatisfaction with staying the same. You may have felt it recently, a sense that certain conversations no longer resonate, certain routines feel hollow, certain goals seem outdated. That feeling was not confusion, it was preparation. Heaven was narrowing your focus so that when the shift came, you would recognize it. Today is that moment of recognition. Archangel Michael's guidance does not chase people who are committed to remaining comfortable. It meets those who are willing to move forward even when clarity comes in pieces. You were drawn to this message because you are ready to receive direction that does not flatter the ego but strengthens the spirit. This is not guidance for spectators. It is guidance for participants, those willing to step into a new phase without needing constant reassurance. Think about how many times you have asked for direction, clarity, or confirmation. Not loudly, not always in words, but internally. Those questions did not go unheard. The response simply arrived in a form that requires attention rather than excitement. This message is part of that response. It is here to align you with what is already unfolding so you do not resist it out of habit or fear. There is also a deeper reason you were drawn here: timing. Divine timing is precise, and when it aligns with human readiness, messages land differently. You are not hearing this too early, and you are not hearing it too late. You are hearing it at the exact point where choice matters. What you do with this awareness determines how smoothly you step into the days ahead. Guidance received but ignored becomes weight. Guidance received and applied becomes momentum. You may notice that as you listen, something settles rather than excites. That calm is important. It signals that this message is not here to overwhelm you but to anchor you. New phases do not always require dramatic emotion. Sometimes they require grounded confidence. the kind that allows you to move forward without broadcasting every step. That is the confidence being cultivated in you now. This is also why community matters in moments like this. Not community that pressures you, but community that reminds you that you are not alone in discernment. If this message resonates with you, take a moment to acknowledge it outwardly. Engage with it. When you like this video, when you comment what you are sensing, when you share it with someone who needs quiet reassurance rather than loud motivation, you participate in the flow of guidance. And if this channel continues to speak to moments like this in your life, subscribe, not out of habit, but out of alignment. You are choosing to stay connected to messages that sharpen awareness rather than distract it. The act of engaging may seem small, but small actions matter in quiet phases. They reinforce intention. They say, "I'm paying attention." And attention is currency in transitions. What you consistently give your attention to shapes how confidently you move forward. This is not about algorithms or numbers. It is about alignment. When you engage, you affirm that you are receptive, present, and willing to move with discernment. As you stand at the beginning of this new phase, understand this: being drawn here is not a badge of superiority. It is a responsibility. Awareness asks something of you. It asks you to respond differently than before, to pause before reacting, to listen before deciding, to trust guidance even when it comes quietly. You are being invited into a way of moving that is steadier, calmer, and more intentional than what you have known. This message found you because you are capable of carrying this kind of awareness without becoming anxious. You are capable of holding direction without rushing. And you are capable of stepping forward without needing validation from every direction. That is why this new phase begins now, and that is why you are here at its threshold. What comes next will build on this awareness. Each layer of guidance will make more sense because you did not ignore the first nudge. You listen. You pause. You open the message. And in doing so, you position yourself not just to witness the new phase, but to walk into it with confidence that grows stronger with every step. What makes this new phase so significant is also what makes it easy to overlook. It does not arrive with disruption. It does not interrupt schedules or demand immediate explanations. Instead, it slips in quietly, almost respectfully, waiting to see who is attentive enough to notice the change in atmosphere. Most people are trained to respond only to pressure, urgency, or visible crisis. But this phase does not announce itself through problems. It reveals itself through subtle shifts in perception, priorities, and inner awareness. Many will miss it because they are still scanning the horizon for something dramatic. They expect transformation to feel chaotic or overwhelming. Yet the most meaningful transitions often arrive without spectacle. They begin internally, long before anything external confirms them. This is why discernment matters now more than ever. Discernment is not about seeing more. It is about noticing what others ignore. And today, discernment separates those who remain stuck from those who quietly move forward. This phase begins with a recalibration. You may notice that things you once tolerated now feel misaligned. Not unbearable, just wrong in a way you can no longer ignore. Conversations may feel shallow. Certain ambitions may feel hollow. Even familiar routines may carry a strange sense of finality. These are not signs of dissatisfaction. They are signals of transition. The danger is not in feeling them. The danger is in dismissing them as temporary moods. Most people will explain these signals away. They will say they are tired, distracted, or overthinking. They will fill the silence with noise to avoid sitting with the truth that something is changing. That is how this phase gets missed. It does not force recognition. It invites it. and invitations can be declined, intentionally or unconsciously. What is unfolding now requires a different kind of attention. Not anxious vigilance, but quiet honesty. The ability to admit, something is shifting, and I don't fully understand it yet. That admission is powerful. It opens the door for guidance to take root. Without it, people remain locked in cycles that feel increasingly heavy, but strangely familiar. This is why the phase begins quietly. Loud beginnings attract ego. Quiet beginnings attract obedience. When there is no external pressure, the only thing that moves you forward is inner truth. And inner truth cannot be faked. It either resonates or it doesn't. That is why some will sense nothing at all today, and that is not a judgment. It simply means their attention is elsewhere. For those who do sense it, the temptation will be to wait for confirmation before acting, to look for reassurance before acknowledging the shift. But this phase does not reward hesitation. It does not punish it either. It simply moves on without you. Transitions like this are time-sensitive not because they expire quickly, but because they require responsiveness while clarity is fresh. There is also a subtle cost to ignoring this moment. When guidance is repeatedly dismissed, sensitivity dulled. What was once clear becomes confusing. What was once gentle becomes uncomfortable. This is not because guidance disappears, but because attention weakens. The new phase you are stepping into now is lighter precisely because you are catching it early. Archangel Michael's presence during this phase emphasizes protection of discernment. He does not force awareness. He guards it once it appears. That means if you honor what you are sensing now, you are supported in it. If you move forward with humility rather than arrogance, your steps are covered. But if you override inner clarity for convenience, protection does not vanish. It simply waits. This phase also requires releasing the belief that progress must be visible to be valid. Some of the most important decisions you will make in this season will be invisible to others. They will happen in thought patterns, boundaries, and quiet choices. That invisibility is intentional and keeps the work pure. It prevents interference. It allows confidence to grow without comparison. You may notice that you feel less inclined to explain yourself. That is another sign of the shift. When alignment increases, the need for justification decreases. You begin to trust your own sense of direction. That trust is fragile at first, which is why this moment matters. How you respond now sets the tone for how confidently you move later. This is the phase most people miss because it does not feel urgent until it has passed. But you are here now, noticing it in real time. That awareness is not accidental. It means you are being given a choice earlier than most, to move with the shift rather than react to it later. Before moving forward, take a moment to mark this internally. Acknowledge that something has begun, even if you cannot name it yet. That acknowledgement anchors the transition. It tells your spirit that you are willing to participate, not just observe. Type "I am aware" in the comments if this resonates with you. Lesson code 419 is now activated. Hold this awareness gently, because what comes next builds directly on it, and you will be glad you stayed for what's about to be revealed. This message did not reach you by chance, and neither is the call attached to it. As this quiet phase begins, God is also opening a way for His light to reach others who are standing where you once stood. When you give through super thanks, membership, or PayPal, you are sowing into voices that carry truth into silent moments like this. I feel led to tell you directly, your obedience here becomes a river, flowing into lives that need guidance right now. Scripture reminds us that when seed is released, heaven responds with increase, pressed down and overflowing. This is not a donation. It is a prophetic action aligned with this new beginning. I speak blessing over every giver. May clarity multiply and confidence rise in your own path. Act now, and let your seed speak, ensuring God's word continues to reach those who are listening. Transitions are not only about change, they are about protection during change. When a person crosses from one phase into another, there is often a vulnerable space where the old structures no longer hold and the new ones are not fully formed. This is the exact space where Archangel Michael's role becomes most evident. He does not arrive to create fear or intensity. He arrives to stabilize movement, to guard direction, and to ensure that what begins in alignment is not disrupted by uncertainty. Archangel Michael is known as a protector, but protection in transitions is rarely about external threats alone. More often, it is about guarding the mind, the will, and the discernment of the person who is moving forward. In moments like this, doubt can sound logical. Fear can present itself as wisdom. Familiar patterns can disguise themselves as safety. Michael's role is to cut through that confusion, not forcefully, but decisively. His guidance brings clarity where hesitation tries to settle. When a new phase begins quietly, there is little external reinforcement. No applause. No immediate confirmation. That absence can feel unsettling if you are used to measuring progress by visible outcomes. This is why Michael's presence is associated with inner assurance. Not confidence that comes from success, but confidence that comes from alignment. It is the calm knowing that even without proof, the direction is correct. Concisions also expose attachments. Old identities, past roles, and previous expectations often try to follow you into the next phase. They whisper that you should carry them along, just in case. But Archangel Michael's guidance is firm here. What is not meant to continue to cannot be protected. His role is not to preserve everything familiar, it is to protect what is essential. This often means allowing certain things to fall away so your movement forward is not slowed or compromised. You may notice that during this time, your tolerance for confusion decreases. Situations that once felt manageable now feel draining. This is not impatience, it is refinement. Michael's influence sharpens discernment so that misalignment becomes uncomfortable rather than acceptable. This discomfort is not meant to punish you. It is meant to redirect you before you invest further energy in paths that are closing. Another key aspect of Michael's role in transitions is courage, not loud courage, but steady courage. The kind that allows you to take the next step without knowing the full route. This courage does not eliminate fear entirely, but it prevents fear from having authority. You may still feel uncertainty, but it no longer controls your decisions. That shift is subtle, yet powerful. Michael also guards timing. One of the greatest dangers in transitions is moving too early or too late. Acting prematurely can create unnecessary resistance. Waiting too long can result in missed alignment. His guidance helps you sense when to move and when to pause. This is not about perfection. It is about responsiveness. The more you honor small nudges now, the clearer larger decisions become later. There is also protection and restraint. Not every thought needs to be spoken. Not every plan needs to be shared. During transitions, silence can be a form of wisdom. Archangel Michael's presence often brings an instinct to keep certain things private until they are established. This is not secrecy rooted in fear. It is discretion rooted in strength. What is still forming needs space, not scrutiny. You may also feel less inclined to seek approval during this phase. That is another sign of Michael's influence. External validation loses its urgency when inner alignment strengthens. You begin to trust your own discernment more deeply. This does not make you isolated. It makes you grounded. You still value counsel, but you are no longer dependent on consensus to move forward. It is important to understand that Michael does not remove challenges from transitions. He ensures that challenges do not derail you. Resistance may still appear, but it will no longer feel confusing. Obstacles become informative rather than intimidating. They show you where adjustments are needed, not whether you should stop entirely. As this new phase unfolds, protection also extends to what you release. Letting go can feel risky, especially when the future is not fully visible. Michael's role here is reassurance. What you are releasing is not being taken from you. It is being returned to its proper place. You are not losing ground. You are gaining mobility. This is why his guidance feels firm yet calm. There is no rush, but there is direction. No pressure, but there is purpose. Transitions guided in this way do not exhaust you. They strengthen you. Each step forward feels lighter, even if it is unfamiliar. As you continue through this phase, remember that protection does not always look like prevention. Sometimes it looks like clarity. Sometimes it looks like detachment. Sometimes it looks like the courage to move forward quietly without needing to convince anyone else. Archangel Michael's role is active now, not dramatic, but precise. And under that guidance, your steps are not only directed, they are covered. This phase you are entering is often misunderstood because it feels quieter than what came before. Many assume that confidence is something that must be tested through pressure, challenges, or visible risk. But what is happening now is different. Your confidence is not being challenged to see if it survives. It is being rebuilt so it can sustain what is coming next. This rebuilding does not announce itself loudly, and because of that, it can be mistaken for uncertainty. In reality, it is recalibration. For a long time, confidence may have been tied to outcomes, to results, approval, progress that could be measured or validated externally. When those things slowed down or disappeared, it may have felt as though confidence weakened. But what actually happened was exposure. The old foundation was revealed as incomplete. Confidence that relies on constant reinforcement cannot carry long-term purpose. This phase is about constructing a deeper foundation, one that does not shake when circumstances fluctuate. That is why hesitation may have surfaced recently. Not because you were regressing, but because something internal was being restructured. When internal systems change, movement naturally slows for a moment. This pause is not failure. It is precision. Just as a builder reinforces the frame before adding weight, this phase reinforces your inner stability before greater responsibility appears. You may notice that your confidence now feels quieter, less performative, less reactive. That is intentional. Loud confidence often masks insecurity. Quiet confidence does not need to announce itself because it is rooted. You no longer feel the urge to prove your strength, explain your decisions, or defend your pace. That shift alone is evidence that rebuilding is underway. This process also involves redefining what confidence means to you. It is no longer about certainty in outcomes but trust in direction. You may not know exactly how everything will unfold, but you know where you are not going anymore. That clarity is powerful. It frees you from second-guessing paths that no longer align, even if they once felt safe or familiar. During this rebuilding, you may feel more aware of your limitations. This can be uncomfortable if you are used to pushing through without acknowledgement. But awareness is not weakness. It is maturity. Confidence that ignores limits eventually collapses. Confidence that understands them moves strategically. You are learning when to move, when to rest, and when to wait without interpreting any of those choices as failure. Another important aspect of this phase is emotional honesty. Old versions of confidence may have required suppression, ignoring fear, bypassing discomfort, or dismissing doubt. The confidence being rebuilt now does not demand denial. It allows space for fear without letting fear lead. It acknowledges doubt without surrendering to it. This balance creates stability rather than tension. You may also find that your confidence no longer depends on being understood by everyone. Misunderstanding you to feel threatening. Now it feels irrelevant. This does not make you indifferent. It makes you focused. When confidence is internally anchored, external opinions lose their power to destabilize you. You listen without absorbing. You consider without conforming. This rebuilding process also restores trust in your own timing. You stop forcing momentum when it is not aligned and stop delaying action when it is. This rhythm feels natural, not strategic. You move because it feels right, not because you are trying to escape discomfort or chase validation. That kind of confidence cannot be rushed. It develops through consistent alignment with inner truth. You may notice that decisions feel simpler now. Not necessarily easier, but clearer. The mental noise has reduced. Overanalysis gives way to discernment. This is not because choices have become smaller, but because confidence no longer needs excessive reassurance. You trust your ability to adjust if needed. That trust removes the paralysis that comes from trying to predict every outcome. It is also important to recognize that rebuilding confidence requires patience with yourself. There may be moments when you feel strong and moments when you feel unsure. This fluctuation does not mean the process is failing. It means it is human. What matters is that uncertainty no longer stops you completely. It may slow you, but it does not freeze you. That is progress. This phase teaches you to separate confidence from urgency. You are no longer driven by the fear of missing out or falling behind. You understand that alignment cannot be rushed without consequences. Confidence now includes the courage to wait when waiting is wise and the discipline to move when movement is required. As this rebuilding continues, you will notice a subtle but significant shift. You begin to trust yourself again. Not the version of yourself that reacted from pressure or expectation, but the version that listens, discerns, and responds with intention. That trust is the real foundation being laid now. This is why this phase feels quieter. Construction happens beneath the surface. When it is complete, what rises will be stable, sustainable, and strong. Your confidence is not being tested to see if it survives. It is being rebuilt so it can carry what is next without breaking. As this new phase continues to unfold, one of the most defining characteristics you will notice is how opportunities begin to appear quietly. Not everything that is meant for you arrives with clarity, labels, or dramatic confirmation. Some doors open without ceremony, without explanation, and without the kind of visibility that makes them obvious to others. This is intentional. Quiet doors require discernment, not impulse. They invite awareness rather than reaction. Many people miss opportunities not because they are unavailable, but because they do not look impressive at first glance. These doors do not resemble breakthroughs. They resemble small shifts, subtle invitations, or changes in access that feel almost accidental. A conversation that lingers in your mind longer than expected. A task that feels insignificant but oddly aligned. A change in circumstance that removes a barrier you once assumed was permanent. These are not random events. They are signals. What makes these doors different is that they do not demand urgency. They simply present themselves and wait to see if you recognize them. In previous phases, pressure may have been the motivator. You moved because you had to. In this phase, Alignment is the motivator. You move because something resonates, even if you cannot fully articulate why. This requires trust in your discernment more than trust in outcomes. Another reason these doors open quietly is protection. Not every opportunity benefits from attention. Some paths require time to develop without interference, opinion, or comparison. When a door opens without announcement, it allows you to explore it without external pressure. You can step through tentatively, observe how it feels, and adjust without the weight of expectation. This kind of freedom is rare, and it is part of what makes this phase different. You may also notice that these doors do not always align with your original plans. They may appear adjacent to your intentions rather than directly in front of them. This can be confusing if you are attached to specific outcomes. But flexibility is essential now. The path forward may not look like a straight line. It may require a slight turn, a pause, or a detour that eventually leads exactly where you need to be. This is where patience becomes a form of wisdom. Quiet doors do not require immediate commitment. They require observation. How do you feel when you step near them? Do you feel lighter or heavier? More focused or more scattered? Alignment often reveals itself through emotional clarity rather than logical certainty. Pay attention to that. Your internal response is valuable information. It is also important to understand that not every open door is meant to be walked through fully. Some are meant to be acknowledged, learned from, and then released. Discernment is not just about saying yes. It is about knowing when to pause and when to decline without guilt. In this phase, confidence allows you to explore without obligation. Another subtle shift you may experience is speed. Once you recognize a door that is truly aligned, movement becomes easier. Resistance lessens. What once felt complicated begins to simplify. This does not mean there will be no effort, but the effort will feel purposeful rather than draining. Momentum replaces stagnation not through force, but through clarity. Quiet doors also test attentiveness. When life is loud, direction is often obvious. When life is calm, direction requires focus. This phase rewards those who notice patterns, recurring themes, and gentle nudges. You may find yourself drawn repeatedly to the same idea, skill, or direction. That repetition is not accidental. It is guidance reinforcing itself until you respond. There is also a lesson here about humility. Quiet opportunities often come without recognition. They may not elevate your status or validate your past struggles immediately, but they build capacity. They prepare you for responsibilities that cannot be carried without this kind of grounding. Accepting them requires letting go of the need to be seen. You may feel moments of doubt when these doors open. You may wonder if you are imagining things, reading too much into small details. This is natural. Discernment develops through use. The more you respond thoughtfully rather than reactively, the clearer guidance becomes. You are learning to trust your perception again, and that trust grows with practice. It is also worth noting that some doors open simply because others have closed. What once consumed your time or energy may no longer be present, creating space. That space is not emptiness. It is invitation. Pay attention to what fills it naturally. That is often where the next step reveals itself. As you move through this phase, resist the urge to compare your progress to others. Loud paths and quiet paths cannot be measured the same way. Just because someone else's opportunities are visible does not mean they are more significant. What is unfolding for you now is tailored, precise, and intentional. Its value will become evident with time. These doors opening without announcement are not meant to overwhelm you. They are meant to empower you. They trust your ability to notice, choose, and move with intention. And as you continue forward, you will begin to recognize them more easily. What once felt settled will start to feel familiar. This is how alignment deepens, not through noise, but through quiet, consistent awareness. Every new phase requires a release, and this one is no exception. What makes letting go difficult is not always attachment to pain, but attachment to familiarity. Even what no longer fits can feel safer than the unknown. As you step further into this new phase, you may sense a growing discomfort with patterns, roles, or expectations that once defined you. This discomfort is not resistance from the future. It is friction from the past asking not to be carried forward. Letting go does not always mean dramatic endings or clear closures. Sometimes it means quiet disengagement, less emotional investment, less explanation, less effort to keep something alive that has already served its purpose. This kind of release can feel anticlimactic, but it is deeply powerful. It honors what was without allowing it to dig what will be. You may notice that certain dynamics feel heavier now than they did before. Conversations that once felt neutral now feel draining. Obligations that once felt manageable now feel restrictive. This is not because you are becoming intolerant. It is because your capacity is being refined. You are no longer meant to pour energy into places that cannot move with you. The weight you feel is not a burden. It is feedback. One of the hardest aspects of letting go is releasing versions of yourself that were built for survival. Old coping mechanisms, old ways of thinking, old identities formed under pressure may have kept you going when options were limited. But survival strategies are not meant to become permanent residences. As conditions change, those strategies can become limitation. This phase asks you to thank them, and then move on. There may also be grief in this release. Not because what you are leaving was wrong, but because it mattered. Letting go does not invalidate the past. It completes it. You are not erasing history. You are closing a chapter that no longer needs to be reread. Allow yourself to feel that without judgment. Grief does not mean you are making the wrong choice. It means you are human. Another layer of release involves expectations, both yours and others. You may need to let go of how you thought things would unfold, how long you expected certain outcomes to take, or how you believed others would show up. Holding on to unmet expectations creates friction with reality. Releasing them creates flexibility. Flexibility is essential for movement in this phase. You may also sense a shift in tolerance for self-betrayal. Where you once compromised to keep peace, you now feel a quiet refusal. Not anger, not rebellion, just clarity. You no longer want to abandon yourself to maintain comfort. This is a sign of growth. It does not require confrontation. It requires consistency. Each time you choose alignment over appeasement, the old phase loosens its grip. Letting go also means releasing the need to explain why you are changing. Explanations often seek permission. This phase does not require approval. Your clarity is enough. Those who are meant to understand will feel it without being convinced. Those who are not will not be persuaded by words anyway. Silence becomes a form of boundary here, not avoidance, but protection. It is important to recognize that release happens in layers. You may let go intellectually before you let go emotionally. You may set boundaries externally before they feel settled internally. This does not mean you are inconsistent. It means you are integrating. Be patient with this process. Forcing relief creates resistance. Allowing it creates resolution. There is also a subtle release of urgency happening now. Old phases often operate on pressure, fear of falling behind, fear of missing out, fear of losing ground. As you let go of that urgency, your decisions become calmer. You move with intention rather than impulse. This lower pace may feel unfamiliar, but it is more sustainable. It allows you to build without burning out. You may feel moments of doubt as you release familiar ground. You may wonder if you are being ungrateful, dramatic, or unrealistic. These thoughts are normal. They arise when identity shifts. Remind yourself that growth does not require justification. If something no longer aligns, honoring that truth is an act of integrity, not ingratitude. As you let go, notice what does not follow you. Notice the relief that appears where tension once lived. Notice the mental space that opens when you stop rehearsing old narratives. These are confirmations. They may be subtle, but they are consistent. Release creates room, not emptiness, but availability. This phase does not ask you to discard everything from the past. It asks you to carry forward only what strengthens you. Wisdom, resilience, discernment. These remain. Guilt, obligation, outdated roles. These do not. You are not starting over. You are continuing with intention. Letting go is not the end of something valuable. It is the clearing that allows what is next to arrive without obstruction. As you release the old phase, you are not losing stability. You are reclaiming direction. And with each quiet release, you step more fully into the new, lighter ground that has been waiting for you. Every quiet transition eventually leads to a moment where awareness turns into choice. This is that moment. Not dramatic, not rushed, but unmistakable once you recognize it. The decision before you now is not about doing something completely new. It is about responding differently than you would have before. This is where the new phase stops being theoretical and becomes lived experience. The moment of decision rarely arrives with full certainty. If it did, there would be no need for trust. Instead, it arrives with enough clarity to move, but not enough to control the outcome. That balance is intentional. It ensures that your step forward is guided by alignment rather than fear or ego. You are not being asked to leap blindly. You are being asked to choose direction over delay. Many people believe decisions are defined by external actions, changing jobs, ending relationships, starting projects. But the most important decisions are internal first. They happen when you decide to stop doubting your discernment, when you choose not to revisit doors that have already closed, when you commit to honoring what feels aligned even if it is unfamiliar. These decisions may not be visible to others, but they shape everything that follows. This moment matters because indecision has a cost, not an immediate penalty, but a gradual erosion of clarity. When awareness is present and action is postponed indefinitely, tension builds. Not because you are doing something wrong, but because alignment is being resisted. Attention is often mistaken for stress, when in reality it is unused momentum. The decision now is not about speed, it is about direction. You do not need to rush forward. You need to stop standing still out of habit. There is a difference. Movement can be slow and still be decisive. What matters is that you are no longer negotiating with what you already know. You may feel fear surface as you approach this decision. That does not mean you are choosing incorrectly. Fear often appears when identity is about to shift. The mind tries to preserve what is familiar, even if it is limiting. Recognize fear without letting it frame the narrative. Fear is information, not instruction. There is also relief available in this moment. Relief that comes from no longer carrying the weight of indecision. Once you choose, energy reorganizes. You may not feel instant confidence, but you will feel direction. Direction brings stability. It gives your thoughts something to organize around. It turns scattered energy into focused intention. is to see and also test trust. Not trust in circumstances, but trust in your ability to adjust. You are not committing to a fixed outcome. You are committing to responsiveness. If something needs correction later, you will handle it. That confidence comes from growth you have already done, even if you underestimate it. Another important aspect of this moment is restraint. Not every decision requires immediate explanation or announcement. Some choices are meant to be lived quietly at first. This protects them while they take root. You are allowed to decide without defending, to move without convincing, to change without permission. The moment of decision also reveals what you value most right now: ease or approval, alignment or familiarity, growth or comfort. These values guide your next steps more than any external advice. Be honest with yourself here. There is no judgment, only information. You may notice that once you decide, certain distractions lose their appeal. Noise fades. Comparisons soften. This is because indecision often fuels distraction. When direction is clear, attention naturally follows. This is not forced discipline. It is alignment simplifying your focus. This decision is not about perfection. You may still question yourself later. That does not undo the choice. Growth is iterative. What matters is that you are no longer avoiding movement. You are participating in your own transition with intention. Archangel Michael's guidance is especially present in moments like this. Not to pull you, but to steady you. To remind you that you are not exposed as you choose. You are protected. The path does not need to be fully visible for the next step to be safe. Take a moment to acknowledge this internally. You are standing at a threshold, and awareness has brought you here for a reason. Do not rush past it. Do not overthink it. Simply recognize that a choice is available now that was not available before. Type "I step forward" in the comments if this resonates with you. Blessing code 682 is now activated. As you hold this decision, remember, what comes next builds directly on it, and what is about to unfold will make this choice feel clearer than it does right now. You'll be glad you stayed present for what is about to be revealed. This moment of decision is not only personal, it is prophetic. As you respond to this guidance, God is also inviting you to help carry this light to others standing at their own crossroads. I hear it clearly in my spirit, and I'm speaking to you directly now. Your action here has weight in the kingdom. When you give through super thanks, membership, or PayPal, you are planting seed into fertile ground where clarity and courage are being released daily. The word says that what is sown in faith returns in harvest, and I declare that over you now. This is not about support. It is about obedience in the moment. Give now, and may your step forward be met with open heavens and multiplied peace. Once a decision hath been made in alignment, something subtle but powerful begins to happen. Movement accelerates without force. This acceleration does not feel rushed or chaotic. It feels natural, almost relieving, as if resistance quietly steps aside. Alignment removes friction. What once required constant effort begins to flow with less strain, not because challenges disappear, but because your energy is no longer divided. Acceleration in this phase is not about doing more. It is about moving cleaner. When your inner direction is clear, your actions become more efficient. You spend less time second-guessing and more time responding. Distractions lose their grip because they no longer serve a purpose. Momentum builds not through urgency, but through consistency. This is why alignment is so important. Misaligned movement may look fast, but it is exhausting. Aligned movement may appear slow at first, but it compounds. Each step supports the next. You are no longer pushing against yourself. The internal conflict that once strained you begins to dissolve, freeing energy you did not realize was trapped in indecision. You may notice that people, information, or opportunities begin to show up with unusual timing. Not dramatically, but precisely. Conversations happen at the right moment. Resources become available when needed. Solutions appear just as questions form. This is not coincidence, it is coordination. Alignment places you in rhythm with what is already unfolding rather than forcing outcomes prematurely. Acceleration also brings clarity about what no longer belongs. As movement increases, misaligned elements struggle to keep up. This can feel uncomfortable at first. You may feel tension as certain habits, relationships, or commitments resist the pace of your growth. But this tension is informative. It shows you where adjustments are needed so momentum can remain sustainable. It is important to understand that acceleration does not mean non-stop action. Rest is still part of alignment. The difference now is that rest no longer feels like avoidance. It feels restorative. You rest because it supports movement, not because you are stuck. That distinction matters. It allows you to move forward without burnout. Another sign of acceleration is decisiveness. Choices that once felt heavy now feel straightforward. Not because they are easy, but because your priorities are clear. You know what aligns and what does not. This clarity reduces emotional noise and speeds up decision-making without sacrificing thoughtfulness. You may also experience an increase in confidence during this phase, not loud confidence, but quiet assurance. You trust your ability to navigate what comes next. You are less afraid of making mistakes because you trust your ability to correct course if needed. That trust removes paralysis. It keeps you moving even when certainty is incomplete. Alignment also changes how you respond to obstacles. Instead of interpreting them as signs to stop, you see them as information. Obstacles refine your approach rather than derail it. This mindset keeps momentum intact. You adjust without losing direction. It is worth noting that acceleration can feel uncomfortable if you are not used to flow. When things begin to move more smoothly, the mind may look for problems out of habit. It may question whether ease is deserved or sustainable. This is where awareness is crucial. Ease is not a threat. It is a signal that alignment is working. This phase rewards attention. The more present you remain, the clearer guidance becomes. Acceleration does not require you to sprint ahead. It requires you to stay engaged with what is unfolding now. When attention drifts, momentum slows. When attention sharpens, movement stabilizes. As this acceleration builds, community becomes important again, not for validation, but for reinforcement. When you engage with this message, when you acknowledge alignment publicly, you strengthen commitment internally. That is why taking a moment to like this video, share it with someone who may be entering a similar phase, or comment what you are noticing matters more than it seems. Is Atkins anger intended? And if this channel continues to meet you at moments of transition like this, subscribe. Staying connected keeps your awareness tuned to alignment rather than distraction. There is also a retention of focus happening now. You are less tempted to revisit old options just in case. Alignment reduces nostalgia for what no longer fits. You may still remember the past, but it no longer pulls you backward. That release keeps momentum forward-facing. Acceleration does not mean everything will happen at once. It means things will happen in the right order. One step prepares the next. One insight unlocks another. Trust this sequencing. Trying to skip steps disrupts flow. Staying present preserves it. If you feel momentum building, honor it. Do not rush it. Do not fear it. Simply move with it. This is not a phase of waiting to see what happens. It is a phase of participating in what is already happening. Pay attention to how different this feels from forcing outcomes. Notice the steadiness, the clarity, the sense that effort and reward are finally in conversation with each other. This is alignment in motion. And as you continue forward, remember this. What you are experiencing now is only the beginning of what alignment can produce. The acceleration you feel today is preparing you for what is about to require it. Stay present, because what comes next depends on how you carry this momentum, and you will want to be here for what is about to be revealed. As you move deeper into this new phase, it becomes important to recognize the signs that confirm you are stepping forward in the right way. These signs are not loud validations or instant results. They are subtle indicators that alignment is present and growing. When you know what to look for, reassurance becomes quieter but more consistent. You stop searching for proof and start noticing patterns. One of the first signs is a shift in your inner state. Confusion begins to lose its intensity. You may not have every answer, but your thoughts feel less scattered. Mental noise reduces. Decisions no longer spiral into endless analysis. This clarity does not mean life is suddenly simple. It means your direction is. You know what deserves your attention and what does not, and that distinction brings peace. Another sign is emotional stability. You may still experience a range of emotions, but they no longer control your actions. Triggers that once pulled you into reaction now pass more quickly. You respond instead of react. This is not emotional numbness, it is emotional maturity. It shows that your nervous system is adjusting to alignment. Safety is being restored internally, which allows you to move forward without constant self-protection. You may also notice an increase in self-respect. Boundaries become easier to maintain. You say no without guilt and yes without hesitation. This is a powerful sign. When you are aligned, you no longer need to negotiate your worth. You honor your limits naturally because you understand that energy is part of stewardship. Where you invest it matters. Another indicator is the quality of your focus. Distractions that once consumed hours now feel uninteresting. This does not mean you are more disciplined. It means your priorities have shifted. Focus sharpens when alignment increases. You begin to value depth over volume, meaning over noise, progress over appearance. The shift makes your movement forward more effective, even if it appears quieter from the outside. There is also a noticeable change in how you perceive time. Rushing decreases. You feel less pressured to keep up with others or with arbitrary timelines. At the same time, procrastination loses its grip. You move when it is time to move, and you rest when it is time to rest. This rhythm is a strong sign of alignment. It shows that urgency and avoidance are no longer running the show. Another sign appears in the form of subtle confirmations. Not dramatic signs, but small consistencies. You hear similar messages from different sources. You encounter information that reinforces what you already sensed. Conversations unexpectedly affirm your direction. These confirmations do not tell you what to do. They reassure you that you are already doing it. You may also notice a reduction in internal conflict. The tug-of-war between what you want and what you think you want begin to fade. This does not eliminate all doubt, but it reduces self-sabotage. When alignment is present, you stop arguing with yourself. You still evaluate, but you no longer undermine your own decisions. Another sign is patience with the process. You are less fixated on outcomes and more engaged with execution. You trust that results will come in their proper time. This patience is not passive, it is confident. It comes from knowing that forcing outcomes too early often damages what is meant to last. You are willing to let things develop properly. Physical cues may also appear. Tension in the body decreases. Sleep improves. Your breathing deepens. These are often overlooked, but they matter. The body responds to alignment just as the mind does. When you move in the right direction, the body releases some of the stress it was holding in anticipation of change. Another important sign is discernment in relationships. You feel clearer about who supports your growth and who drains it. This clarity does not create judgment. It creates distance where needed and closeness where safe. You no longer try to make everyone comfortable at your own expense. This shift protects your momentum. You may also find that mistakes feel less catastrophic. When you are aligned, errors become adjustments rather than failures. You correct course without collapsing into self-criticism. This resilience is a strong indicator that you trust yourself more than you used to. Trust is the foundation of sustainable confidence. There is also an increased sense of responsibility, not pressure, but ownership. You recognize that your choices matter. You take them seriously without becoming rigid. This balance allows you to lead your own life rather than react to it. One of the clearest signs is peace during uncertainty. Even when you do not know what comes next, you feel anchored. That peace is not denial. It is alignment. It tells you that you are positioned correctly, even if the path ahead is still unfolding. Pay attention to these signs. They are not meant to inflate confidence. They are meant to guide it. When you recognize them, you can move forward without constantly questioning yourself. You begin to trust the process because you can see its effects. These signs do not appear all at once. They accumulate gradually. But together, they form a clear message. You are stepping forward correctly. Stay attentive, stay grounded, and allow these confirmations to strengthen your resolve as you continue into what comes next. As you continue forward into this new phase, it is important to understand that movement does not mean exposure. One of the most common fears people carry during transitions is the belief that stepping forward makes them vulnerable, that by choosing a new direction, they somehow lose the protection they once felt in familiarity. But this phase operates differently. You are not moving uncovered. You are moving guarded. Protection in this season is not about preventing all difficulty. It is about ensuring that difficulty does not have authority over you. Challenges may still arise, but they will not have the same power to derail you. What once would have shaken your confidence now becomes manageable. This is a sign that protection is active, not absent. Much of this protection works internally first. Your thoughts are more resilient. Negative spirals lose momentum faster. You recover more quickly from emotional dips. This does not mean you no longer feel deeply. It means feelings no longer dictate direction. Internal protection is often overlooked, yet it is the most critical form. When the mind is guarded, external pressures lose their leverage. You may notice that situations which once triggered fear now trigger discernment instead. Rather than reacting instinctively, you pause. That pause is protection. It gives you space to choose wisely. It prevents unnecessary conflict. It allows you to see what is truly happening rather than what fear suggests is happening. Another form of protection appears through redirection. Some plans may not move forward as expected. Certain doors may remain closed despite effort. In previous phases, this might have felt frustrating or discouraging. Now, it feels informative. You sense that restraint is serving you. This is protection in motion, keeping you from paths that would drain energy or delay growth. Protection also shows up through boundaries becoming easier to maintain. You feel less obligated to explain yourself or justify your choices. You disengage from dynamics that feel chaotic or manipulative without guilt. This is not withdrawal, it is wisdom. Your energy is being conserved for what truly matters, and that conservation is intentional. You may also experience protection through timing. Opportunities arrive when you are ready to handle them, not before. Conversations happen when you are grounded enough to speak clearly. Responsibilities increase gradually rather than all at once. This pacing is not accidental. It prevents overwhelm and allows confidence to stabilize as demands grow. Another subtle but powerful form of protection is clarity around fear. Fear no longer disguises itself as logic as easily as it once did. You can tell the difference between caution and avoidance, between intuition and insecurity. This discernment keeps you from retreating unnecessarily or charging forward recklessly. It keeps your movement balanced. There is also protection in how others respond to you now. Some people may naturally fall away. Others may step closer in unexpected ways. This shift is not random. It reflects alignment. Those who cannot support your growth lose influence, while those who resonate with your direction become more present. This realignment protects your momentum. You may notice that even when you make mistakes, consequences feel contained. Errors do not spiral into chaos. You learn, adjust, and continue. This is not luck. It is coverage. You are allowed to learn without being dismantled. Its safety encourages growth rather than fear-based perfectionism. Protection also extends to your sense of identity. You are less likely to internalize criticism or comparison. Other people's opinions pass through you rather than sticking. This does not mean you are indifferent. It means you are anchored. When identity is stable, external noise loses its ability to define you. It is important to recognize that protection does not always feel comforting. Sometimes it feels like restraint, like delays, like redirection away from something you wanted. But over time, you begin to see how those moments preserved energy, prevented misalignment, or saved you from unnecessary struggle. Protection often reveals itself in hindsight. As you move ahead, trust the guardrails you feel internally. A hesitation before a certain choice. At peace about walking away from something unfinished. At clarity about where not to invest further energy. These are not limitations. They are guidance. They keep your path clean. You may also sense a growing confidence that you can handle what comes next. This confidence is not arrogance. It is trust in the support surrounding you. You know that even if things do not go exactly as planned, you will not be left without resources, insight, or strength. That assurance reduces fear of the unknown. Protection in this phase does not isolate you from reality. It equips you to engage with it more effectively. You are not shielded from life. You are strengthened within it. That distinction matters. It allows you to move forward without shrinking or hardening. As you continue, remember this. You are not stepping into uncertainty alone. The ground beneath you is more stable than it appears. Each step is supported, even when you cannot see how. Trust that what is guiding you now is not only directing your movement but guarding it. This protection is not temporary. It grows as alignment deepens. The more you honor discernment, the clearer and stronger the covering becomes. Move forward with that awareness. You are not exposed. You are prepared. And you are being kept as you advance into what is next. As this message comes to a close, it is important to pause and recognize the full picture of what has been unfolding. This was never about one moment, one decision, or one feeling. It has been about a gradual, intentional shift that began quietly and carried you forward step by step. What started as subtle awareness has grown into clarity, direction, and steadiness. This is the nature of true alignment. It does not rush you, but it does not leave you unchanged. You are not standing at the edge anymore. You are already moving. Even if your external circumstances look similar, something foundational within you has shifted. Your perception is sharper. Your confidence is calmer. Your fear no longer dictates your choices. These are not small changes. They are the markers of a new phase taking root. This phase does not require you to strive harder. It invites you to trust deeper. Trust the discernment you have gained. Trust the boundaries you are learning to honor. Trust the quiet confidence that no longer needs to prove itself. You are not behind. You are not missing anything meant for you. What is unfolding now is precise, not rushed. There may still be moments of uncertainty ahead. That is natural. Growth does not eliminate questions. It changes how you hold them. Instead of feeling overwhelmed, you now meet uncertainty with steadiness. You know how to pause, listen, and respond rather than react. That skill alone will carry you further than constant certainty ever could. This message was not meant to elevate emotion. It was meant to anchor truth. Truth that reminds you that quiet beginnings are still beginnings. That unseen progress is still progress. That protection does not always look dramatic, but it is always effective. You are being guided in ways that match who you are becoming, not who you used to be. As you move forward, remember that alignment is not something you achieve once and then maintain effortlessly. It is something you return to through awareness. When things feel off, you recalibrate. When things feel right, you continue. There is no failure in adjustment. There is wisdom in responsiveness. You are allowed to grow without announcing it. You are allowed to change without explaining it. You are allowed to move forward without carrying the weight of who you were. This phase honors authenticity over performance, depth over speed, and peace over pressure. What lies ahead will require the version of you that is emerging now, not the version shaped by survival, urgency, or expectation. And that version is ready, not because everything is perfect, but because you are present. Presence is power. It keeps you grounded in the moment where guidance actually operates. Take this assurance with you. You are not walking into emptiness. You are walking into prepared ground. Each step you take with awareness reinforces stability. Each choice made in alignment strengthens confidence. Each release creates room for what belongs. If you ever feel uncertain again, return to what you have learned here. Quiet does not mean absent. Stillness does not mean stuck. And guidance does not stop just because the message ends. It continues as long as you remain attentive. You are not alone in this phase. You are supported, protected, and guided in ways that extend beyond what you can see. Let that assurance settle. Let it replace doubt with calm. Let it remind you that forward movement does not have to be loud to be powerful. Type "I walk in confidence" in the comments if this resonates with you. Lesson code 914 is now activated. Carry this forward with you. What has begun will continue to unfold with clarity, protection, and purpose. And as you move ahead, may peace accompany your steps and confidence remain steady within you. As this message seals what God has begun in you, there is also a divine invitation to help carry this word forward. I am speaking to you directly now. What you have received was never meant to stop with you. When you give through super thanks, membership, or PayPal, you are releasing seed that becomes light for others standing in silent transitions just like this. God's word declares that those who sow generously will reap abundantly, and I speak that promise over you now. This is not support. It is alignment with heaven's flow. Your obedience here unlocks reach, clarity, and provision. Give now, and let your seed move where your hands cannot, fulfilling its purpose in this season.